To the points and the delegations on quite a spectrum today. As you've correctly commented on the apprenticeship program, so it's something we'll do a briefing executive session for the board as we've discussed. But I do not want to get into this in the public realm because we are in bargaining as well. So,
of course, this would all be public because it's public funds, and some of you might remember there's a whole big to-do about making these processes public. I think this was 2012, but the TriMet refused to let me in just to be a observer. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that all died. I mean, the union didn't push it, and of course, TriMet doesn't want anything public, and it never will be. Unfortunately, the union won't push for that either, which is too bad because all of these proceedings should be public. It's public money. The public has a right to know how this happens, how these contracts come about, the process involved. But it's America with 2 Ks.
First point. The second one is I do want to comment on the electrification side of things. Firstly, it's like the world. I was very fortunate to be invited by Mayor Wheeler over to Copenhagen. I was actually at the Mayor's C40 conference with many people publicly.
Yeah, they don't believe in like video like I do. You can watch this shit from home. You don't need to be there anymore. Of course, these technocrats, these politicians, they're going to soak up every benefit possible. You don't need to be there. It's a complete pork barrel. Everybody knows it. But once again, what are we going to do about it? Not a goddamn thing.
Recognize. And coming back from that, you've probably seen public announcement, hopefully the public has, around some significant commitments this agency, in fact, has made. In fact, I would suggest we're probably leading the country on many, many fronts. So starting next month, we will be 100% the first in the country wind power on the whole max.
Yeah, the wind power. Yeah, they're buying energy credits from PGE. Okay, that's so, they're so full of shit. It's just, I cannot watch this. This is as painful to watch as Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, because they just lie, man. They just lie about everything.
System. That is a first. We are conducting our first ever strategic review and waste audit, stream audit, to look at to ultimately get to a net zero. So over the next year, we're going to conduct that audit as a benchmark, as a baseline audit first. Then over this next year, we'll start developing the.
I want to point out that if you watch the public testimony previous to this, one of the speakers pointed out that TriMet had the dirtiest bus fleet in the country, and they did. Okay, TriMet has not been this has not been a priority for TriMet until now, I guess. Now all of a sudden, because it's in fashion to say your Green New Deal, I guess, right? The Green New Con game. It's better than nothing, obviously. It's better than the Trump Petro agenda. But I don't have any faith in government at all. I'm sorry to do anything for us at all. It's all special interest. It represents the elites. Unless we can get rid of all these people that are running the show, we're just wasting our time and money.
Long-term strategy, ultimately to get this agency to a net zero place. Not sure of year, time. I think we need the baseline of the implications of it that we financially and otherwise, policy-wise, can absorb and afford.
I mean, what's he talking about anyway? How much waste does TriMet generate? I mean, what? What, fucking computer paper?
We are also made a significant commitment with real money of converting our existing bus fleet over, conventional bus fleet over from ultra low sulfur diesel to B99, an 80-20 blend. That's about a $2.5 million financial hit. We are taking that on now. That is a significant, so reducing our existing carbon footprint while we transition out of diesel. Again, it's one of those things that doesn't hurt when you say it fast, but to make that we are buying only electric buses right now, because we are in transition, you have to be able to plug them in somewhere. So there's a whole infrastructure change.
Yeah, nobody talks about trolley buses. You can have they had electric buses. They were called trolley buses. But, we're going to do this new technology because why? Oh, they don't look good. The wires don't look good. Oh, give me a break.
Of all of our facilities, and as some of the others have spoken about today, the mechanics, the training, the industry is in transformation right now. We also, while we get there,
only China knows how to do this. Not America, China. Hundreds of thousands of electric buses. We have none. We have 20, and they're always out for repairs. What does that say about our country?
and so we also made a commitment by 2025. I made a commitment that by 2025 and after, if we can do it before, we will. We will be buying only electric buses or hydrogen. I think we've committed. I would come back to the board because the technology is still evolving. And in fact, we see that right here. So we have 5 electric buses today. And if I go back from December 23rd or 24th, I may have the date not quite right. We literally had all 5 of them parked because they were broken and not working.
He's not
And
kidding
so we
about
literally,
that.
so you need a product that can actually work. And so everyone just thinks it's a check mark and done. It is not. The mayor of Phoenix, for example, when they went electric, the mayor of Phoenix actually pulled all the buses off, or I think it was Albuquerque, actually, I'm wrong, actually pulled all their electric buses off because they were not performing. So the industry is still transitioning to a stabilized product. I think it would be pretty dangerous to put a product out there that can actually get people where they want to go with a reliability state. So we are taking the journey operationally. We're taking the journey in a very significant capital transformation, and really want to thank our PGE partners for helping us do that, like at Powell Garage, with that whole retrofit for approximately $150 million, while we get to understanding the performance of the technology, let alone will it be hydrogen or electric. So as I committed to the board, I will come back in about 4 years, as we're still going to be at about 70 to 80 electric buses here just the next few years, which is more than anyone else in the state combined will have. So we accept the challenge, but we have to deliver on this, the technology, the performance, the capital, the trans.
I don't know if anybody else finds it odd that we can send spacecraft all over the solar system, but we can't make an electric bus. Doesn't anybody else find that peculiar? It might almost like they don't want to make an electric bus. It almost seems to me that they don't actually want to do this. You know, the petrodollar and all that, you know what I mean?
Transformation, our people can actually execute it. And we're not alone. The country is going through this as well. So I just wanted to, I'm trying to blend the aspiration with the perspiration of how you actually do it, if you will, because we got to make it work. So, I just wanted to respond to that. The report, first I'd like to do is I'm going to cover the quarterly performance report. Then I'd like to talk about our December ridership, some good news there. Then I also want to give you a quick update on HOP, and then also talk about the feedback you had given us to on the business plan as it now goes out for any public comment. So firstly, quarterly performance, I'm just calling up Chief Operating Officer Sam Dessous and Brett Rogers. Both are doing a great job for us to cover off the quarterly report. So gentlemen, over to you.
Morning, President Warner
Who's this?
and board members.
who's that?
We're here to present to you the 2019 third quarter, and that's July.
This is who? Now let's see. Who is this? Is this Presser's job, or is this? There's so many different executives there now. I don't know who's who. What? I guess this is Henderson. So they traded Henderson for him. So, Henderson was black too, by the way. So I think this guy is equal to Henderson. I don't know. I'm so confused over the executive staff over there now.
August and September performance report highlights.
Okay.
We will be comparing 2018 third quarter to 2019 third quarter in this report here. A couple of key points that I wanted to just point out here is that our rail rule violations are down 37% since the end of 2017, and that's a significant achievement there. Also, the second key point here is our...
You goddamn Max drivers were just the goddamn shits, weren't you all? 37% drop in violations. I wonder if that actually translates to like less accidents or something. I don't know. Does it?
Max collision rate is the lowest that it's been in 5 years. So those two key points.
Okay, well, so I guess it does, but I mean, there's sure a lot of collisions. I mean, every day there's 2. So I don't know. What I hear doesn't really doesn't go with what he's saying. I mean, a shitload of collisions. He's saying it's the lowest ever or whatever. Do we believe him? I don't know. I don't really believe anything that comes out of these people's mouths, which is why I don't watch this, because you're watching government technocrats who lie. Part of their job is to lie.
I wanted to just call out here. So let's start off here with our
All right,
bus
okay.
and Mike's on-time performance for the third quarter
Okay.
of last year. And I'm using calendar year 2019 here. So we were at 90% on-time.
Okay, we know. Okay, we've talked about this and how they achieve the 90%. There's all kinds of little tricks they have in here to get these figures. But runs get canceled, but trips get curtailed. Trains change train numbers. So this is not really of any use to anybody, these figures, because it doesn't mean all the buses that were out on the road that they put out in one day maintained 86% on time. It doesn't mean that. If they curtail the trip, I don't even know if that's counted anymore. If they switch max train numbers, what do they do with the rest of the other train's trip? So I don't trust these numbers at all. 90% seems to be an industry average. I mean, you go to MBTA, they say they're 90% on time too, yet those of us that are listening, we don't believe it. It's just one breakdown after another. These statistics don't really tell you the tale.
Our performance for our MAG services, and for our bus services, we were at 86%. So we had a change of 1.5% increase of on-time performance, third quarter to third quarter comparison. And then on our MAX, on our bus on-time performance, we basically remained stable and unchanged. A couple of key points here is that we continue to emphasize to our employees to leave the yard on time and also make sure that they leave the garage on time. Next slide.
Didn't he said that twice? I don't know. I may be tripping.
Our West on-time performance have seen a significant increase when you compare the quarters. We've moved 4.5% increase on West. A couple of things occurred in
Of course, West is a huge failure. It doesn't really matter how on time they are because nobody rides it. Sucks down a ton of money for virtually nobody.
2018 in the third quarter was we were doing all of the positive control trains and the control work that was taking place. Also during that time frame in 2018, we had a little bit of heat in the construction, which had us do a tremendous increase on the on-time performance.
This guy's not very well spoken.
Our fixed route bus operator complaints per 100,000 boardings have increased on the service delivery side. And if you look at the service delivery, it's complaints about our vehicles being on time. So we had a decrease by 1.3% with our vehicle complaints. And also from our operator-related complaints, we had a reduction of 0.5% also there. And then our safety complaints remain pretty stable when you compare the 2 years. The key point here is as OTP...
So 3 complaints per 100,000. Okay, consider a boarding, every rider is 1 boarding. 2 boardings. So 100,000, so just look at this in terms of people. So per 50,000 people, there's 3 complaints or 4 complaints or 5 complaints per 50,000.
Increases, our delivery complaints decreases. Basically, both our public relation complaints and our safety complaints are stable. One thing I wanted to point out here is Director Way and Edwards requested our complaints to be broken down by category, and this will be something that I'll show you here very shortly. Next slide is our max operator complaints per 100.
Look at this here. 5 complaints per 100,000 boardings in October, the third quarter, 2015.
100,000 boardings. We've seen a decrease on the service delivery side with complaints at 0.2%, and also on our
So there's not even one, there's like, let's see, 2.1 complaints about Max for every 100,000 boardings. It's not even statistically significant. Why are you even reporting on it? If that's the amount of complaints, it's not significant to even talk about. It's so low that why even report? Even at this level, 5 complaints for 100,000 boardings, it's nothing.
Operator-related complaints or public relation complaints was down 0.1%. Our safety-related complaints here remain pretty stable here. And again, as I stated on the bus side, as OTP increases, our service delivery complaints decline. So one of the things I want to put in perspective, if you look at
Wait, go back.
safety complaints there, so for every 100,000 boardings
Wait a minute, I
that we
want to see the other
have
chart.
on
Hold
Max,
on.
we have
Can I,
decrease on the service delivery side with complaints at 0.2%, and also on our operator-related complaints or our public relation complaints was down 0.1%. Our safety-related complaints here remain pretty stable here.
come on.
And again, as I stated on the bus side, as OTP increases, our service delivery complaints decline.
Well, I want to see that chart. Maybe it's...
So one of the things...
All right, got it. Okay. Here we go. This is what we really want to see. They ran right through this one. You couldn't even see it. Let's look at this. Okay, third quarter complaints. Okay, see, it's not... See, look at the totals. All right, look at this. How does this relate to the other chart? Because, okay, and this is a quarter, so it's 3 months. So in 3 months' time, there were 227 bad driving complaints. 87. I was thinking there was like one complaint or something, but that's not what it is at all. Okay, there was 227 bad driving, 87 bad lane change, 81 rough ride, which is probably, mechanical speeding. 51 ran red light, 44 pedestrian, 43 bicycle, 28 vehicle pedestrians hits. This is where they actually hit something bad. Bus position at stop, 23 complaints. Unsafe right turn, 16 complaints. Endangerment of public safety, 13 complaints. Erratic or aggressive driving, 7 complaints. Use of audio video, 6. Intimidation of public, they had 2 complaints. All right, this is what you want to see. The other chart doesn't mean anything. Okay, Max, rough ride. Okay, we already know that has nothing to do with the Max operator. Okay, that's all mechanical. Driving behavior, they don't even see them driving. They're in a cabin. Pedestrian safety, get out of here. Bicyclist safety, the Max has endangerment. How can you make the Max operator charge him with endangerment? Max runs red lights all the time, so 1 doesn't make sense. Report vehicle pedestrian. Well, there's a lot more than 1, I can tell you that. Maybe that's this quarter. Speeding. Oh, somebody was using an audio device. Oh, God.
Things I want to put in perspective, if you look at
they didn't give you much time on
safety
that chart.
complaints there, so for every 100,000
how does this thing relate to that thing
that we have on Max, we have 4 safety complaints.
That's a pretty good example of how they fuck up, how they change how it looks by changing the presentation. This looks like nothing, but when you look at the other chart, there was quite a few complaints. So this is an excellent example of how they distort information to make it look different from what it actually is. Excellent example of that. Okay.
So here's the graph.
They did come back to this, so okay. I thought they were going to skip it over, but apparently they do.
That Director Way and Edwards requested.
Yeah, see, good for you.
Our categories are from our SIP process or our service improvement process. On the bus side, we have 14 categories,
Yeah.
and during this quarter, this third
So now
quarter
let me
of calendar year
cut this because they were asked by the board to do this. So in other words, they weren't doing this before. And it's good on the board for asking for this. At least they've got some intelligence to want to see a more specific report rather than that crappy little chart.
2019, there were 653 complaints during that quarter on the bus side. And then on the mag side, we had 9 categories and we had 54 complaints. So again, to put it in perspective, on the bus with 653 complaints, we had 14.3 million boardings during that time frame. On the max, we had 54 complaints and we had 9.5 million boardings during that time frame. So as I stated at the beginning of this presentation here, one of the key points of success for
Wait
the
a
quarter
minute. Now here, look again.
was the
He
reduction
just
in
got through telling us that rail violations were the lowest ever. Didn't he just say that? Well, I can look at this chart and I can see that the third quarter of 2017 is lower than the quarter he's talking about. Just look at this chart. He said, what a lying piece of shit these people are. It changed on the year 21%. So quarter one, wait a minute. Okay, so he's only looking at this first quarter, second quarter, third. So wait a minute, that's a 21% decrease from here to here. I don't see that. It doesn't look like that to me.
and rule violations here. So for the third quarter of 2019, we reduced by 21% in the third quarter. And then overall, since 2017, we've had a 37% reduction.
Yeah, but you see, this is a great report because it shows you can see how they distort the information to come out the way they want it. Here's where the lowest rule violations. That's 2017. Okay, that was 2 years ago. Before, I think Kelsey wasn't even here then, was he? I don't know. But that's 2 years ago. They had a lower rule violation rate than they do today. But he's not talking about that. He's talking about this one. See how they manipulate statistics? It's important to understand that because it's important to understand you can't trust these people when they present this information.
And rule rail violations. And this is hats off to the team. They've been working very hard. The managers, the operators have worked very hard, and our training staff.
If he was honest, he would say we had a lower rule violation rate in the third quarter of 2017. But he's not saying that. He's only looking at one year ago.
Make sure that we identify the needs to refresh our operators on the routes and the lines that they've not operated within the past year. So this is a significant improvement. Our lift, miles between road calls for the calendar year, we had a 73% increase on miles between road calls.
In other words,
what we're doing here is that we are replacing the older, less reliable vehicles.
73% increase. That is that's the highest ever on this chart. That's the highest ever. Let's hear his excuses.
Both in quarter one and quarter two of 2019, we replaced 27 vehicles. And as we replaced those vehicles, it led to the improved performance that you see.
Is this good or bad? Oh, wait, okay. So then
a fixed route bus mean distance between failures. We've seen an increase over 2018 by 21.7%. The keys here are twofold.
That last one was good.
One, we have a bus mechanic supervisor that we've placed into our operator control center. At one time, we've had a lot of requests for bus changes. And
this guy is not well spoken. You know, can you hear it? He doesn't seem to know the material.
And what we've done is put a supervisor in the control center so that when those changes are requested, the supervisor is able to triage the situation without having a change in bus. So they're able to walk through over the radio and make the repair on the spot without bringing the bus in. Now, if there's a safety issue, the supervisor will have the individual bring the bus back in and replace it. The other piece that I think is very critical here is that our fleet age has been reduced from 16 years to 8 years. So again, we're changing our vehicles, and we're taking our least reliable vehicles and moving them from the active fleet to our contingency fleet. Our Mike's light rail mean distance between failures had a decrease also, or increase, I should say, of 27.4%, or either 2,332 miles. Again, I want to say hats off to our maintenance team. Our maintenance have done a wonderful job with ensuring that all of our programs and maintenance is taken care of. There were a key issue that made the change here drastically. Our REM group overhauled all of our Type 2 and 3 auxiliary inverters. And for those of you that don't know what an inverter is, it's the device that changes direct current to alternating current, and we were having some problems with our inverters during this period here. So you see the change that's there.
I don't know. So is a high number good or a low number good? I lost service. So change per year. So 27. That's good then. So the low number is bad and the high number is good. It's very tricky to understand. It's not presented in an understandable format. Of course not. Why would it be?
There again, reliability and availability of the vehicles.
Well, I don't know. This guy doesn't.
Our fixed route bus collision per 100,000 miles, we have moved to 5.4 collisions, which was a 2.1% change, and the decline was primarily driven by the decrease in mirror strikes that we were having.
Yeah, the mirror strikes that they don't ever seem. I don't know why they haven't reconfigured those mirrors, because those mirrors stick way out, and I don't know why TriMet doesn't fix that and put the mirrors up somewhere else. But that's just ridiculous the way drivers have to put up with that condition.
A lot of refresher training that we just went through, and also great input from all of our managers on safety messages out to drive with a bigger picture.
See, he's not well spoken at all. This is the first time I've seen him, and he's stumbling through this material.
Next slide is our max collisions per 100,000 miles.
This doesn't make sense, man. What we've been hearing every day for the last week is a collision or two per day. Now, you know, the next time they have this report, this is going to be up here, okay? Because there's been a lot of collisions lately, and we must be in the first quarter. Wait a minute, let's see, 2019 quarter 3. Yeah, they're working on a fiscal year, which is different from a calendar year. So we must be in. Wait a minute, this is January. All right, I don't know how they're doing this, but I know we got a lot of collisions right now because I listened to it. I don't even believe
for
this.
Calendar year 19, we are at our lowest currently.
I don't believe it. It's not
0.86
believable.
collisions. And this has been our lowest over the last 5 years. One of the things here is that...
But you can see how this is not, you know, look at the way that it goes up, down, up, down, up. It's not, I think it's more to do with the people that are driving cars than you guys. You know, if people are paying attention, you're not getting in collisions. But I know this last 2 weeks has been horrible for collisions.
Most of our collisions with the MAX are not due to operator fault. We have folks that drive in our right-of-ways, which I'll touch on here on the next slide.
Yeah, it's all
and
construction.
We've also went out.
It's really an engineering problem. They've engineered it so that cars, it's all predictable. You know, drivers are not going to pay attention. You know that. It's a given. So this was all constructed with that, knowing these things.
Out and started adding safety delineators on the east side of town just to keep people out of their rail alignment. But this is hats off to the team on the training and retraining. And then finally, the last graph here that we will present to you.
The last graft. Did you hear that? He said graft. Who is this guy?
Is the graph that was requested by Director Wade, just as well as Edwards, is to identify areas where the max collisions are happening.
Okay, good.
So if you look at the...
All right, let's stop. Okay, here's some information you can actually understand, okay? Last 5 years, there's been 340 collisions in the last 5 years. Sounds about right? Maybe, yeah, more or less. I don't know. You have to believe them because we have no way to. 10% interstate, 5% Hillsborough, 42% downtown. That's certainly believable. What's other? 12.9. Ruby, Beaverton. Yeah, well, I believe the downtown figure and I believe the Rose Quarter. But we know, okay, last 5 years, they say there's been 340 collisions. I guess that would be honest. I can't imagine they would try to fudge that.
Graph there that shows 4 boxes on the graph. 70% of all of our collisions occur in the areas that's noted in those red boxes.
What red boxes?
And that's a total of 244 collisions over the last 5 years in the red boxes. We have formed a safety task force with our groups, just as well as we have put together a continuous improvement team to do research and look at ways to mitigate some of the collisions, just as well as some of the autos that's in the right-of-way. A couple of points here I want to make is in the downtown area. We're driving the trains in the downtown unprotected. So we have people that cross and turn in front of the vehicles. Drivers have to be on guard at all times and to make sure that they keep our passengers safe. So this concludes the third quarter performance report, and both Brett and I, we will take questions.
Well, you're not going to say anything.
Yes, Director Edwards.
You said that you have folks driving on the right-of-way. What are the frequency of those occurrences?
So in the last 2 months, Doug and I have been talking to each other kind of around the clock.
Did you hear Doug chuckle when he asked that? He chuckled when he asked that question.
About the situation. We've had quite a bit for the months of December and January.
All right.
And I would say upwards to 20 different occasions.
Yeah.
I think 2 to 3 per week is what we're seeing with people intruding into the right-of-way.
Yeah.
So this is a issue that we're looking at now, is to go out, look at our signage, look at our delineators, look at ballards, look at everything to protect it. We also, during the holiday time, we had quite a few drunk drivers that intruded into the right-of-way during that time frame also.
Can I just add to this? That's a great question. We're basically averaging about 1 every day and a half to 2. We forget we got about 100 miles.
Yeah. Okay. He's being honest. Honesty. It's right. That's what I just said. There's every day there's a couple of these things.
Miles of congested. We run with mixed traffic, the public, and so I've asked Sam and team to look at basically a heat map. Where are these occurring?
We have the heat map. I have that.
Let's use the GIS of the
world
to understand the technology. And not only what can we do to mitigate some of those occurring, and we have done some steps in the past, but also what is our response once we get it? Mm-hmm. So the goal is, how do you keep the system resilient? Because our customers don't really care. All they need to know is where they're going. They don't even see what's ahead. Mm-hmm. So there's a resiliency side to the trust of the system. So we have to remove those barriers, and it's a really significant one. And one of the real big ones is the steel bridge. So it's a great question. It's on our attack plan, but we got to understand the evidence and the data, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, another wake up.
Thank you.
Nope.
Real quick, I saw that yesterday, I think, on social media, you pushed out a blog post on the subject of is it okay to drive on the MAX and streetcar tracks downtown? And I thought that was a very helpful article, kind of laying it out for drivers how they shouldn't
like her at
be
all, by the way.
blocking downtown.
That's correct.
You know, I don't like her because she stated publicly that she didn't trust the riders, and when we were talking about fair enforcement, and she was very pro-police state,
Yeah.
Our goal is safety first and making sure that we keep the alignment free of all vehicles.
I just wanted to add, I'm noticing many of those hotspots occur in District 2. There's an annual trend that happens in the holiday season with folks visiting their family members here in
This
Portland.
guy is such a
And it's not
political-
uncommon in
he's such a
December
politician,
to have a
man.
lot of people that are unfamiliar
A corporatist
with those
politician.
conditions in downtown that don't come here very often or might be here
Trying
for
to
the first
run.
time.
He's another example. He's trying to run on a minority status. He's Hispanic. This is the new thing, you know. The corporatist mentality. They're trying to get away from the white face, so they're finding other faces that will support their agenda. Just because, and Outlaw was a great example of, just because she was black, she did nothing to make policing more humane. She was just a black face on the current police structure, and we're seeing this more and more in these blue states. They put these minority faces on their agenda, and somehow that's going to make it all right, and it doesn't work. It's for those of us that know what's going on.
Time. So I think being cognizant of how we're making it easier for those that are visiting, that don't come here and see those types of lane designations very often, it could be quite confusing. And I think that signage and clarity, especially leaning into it in the holiday season, can do.
Look, I was a bus driver for 20 years out of my 40 years that I worked. People in cars don't pay attention. Okay, it's people just change when they get behind the wheel of a car. They're generally reckless. That's unfortunately the truth. Cars are very dangerous, and people driving them are reckless. And that's why the MAX should have been segregated from the auto traffic from the very start.
Do something to really move the needle on this, because it seems to be a hot spot, not just geographically, but in the calendar as well.
Guys, hopefully he won't get the mayor, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Who knows?
Again, thanks to Brett, thanks to Sam and the whole team.
Brett
Because
didn't say
if you
anything.
look at the charts, this is part
Well, I'm not impressed with Sam Dessous, by the way. I thought it was very unimpressive.
of a cultural change of how we do our business. We start to look at the trajectory of the trends, and most of them all in the right way.
They are.
Yeah,
So
you want to
this
do
is
it.
how we rewire. And just as a reminder, Shelley Lancers and myself, we were in another city looking at transit-oriented development. We were actually speaking to, this is quite a number of months ago, we're speaking to one very large TOD. It was a $2 billion single-site TOD, very big. The first thing that the person asked us about was, is your transit system reliable and fast? And so these are all the examples why you have to wire, because they can't sell units to create access to something that people aren't prepared to build their lives on. So
There you go. He said it. That's the whole purpose of light rail, is to sell fucking property development apartments. That's what it's about, man. They're using government services to sell private property, aka neoliberalism.
this has a lot of unintended consequences. And yes, when we took this on a number of years ago, the board would have heard, gee, it's on-time performance at the choice of safety. Well, I think that's not the case. You can be safe and you can be on time. And again, safety trumps in all cases. So, and I think we're showing that you can move the trajectory and use your pedal, your gas, and your brake of safety to get where you want to go. So I think this is, just
He's such a fast talker, isn't he? What a fast talker this guy is.
a real tribute to all the maintenance team, the transportation team.
Yeah, keep putting
I'll
out
call
those
our
fake-
internal village
those
to
fake
make some of these
operators.
changes. So thank you. Next one up is, again, let's to talk about the ridership. So
is
this
all-
is sort of the
this is the
change we're
general
making
manager
internally. So
report?
some of the ridership trends we're seeing, I think, are looking encouraging here. So TriMet, we provided for December more than just under 7.6 million rides in December. The number reflects it's a weekly system-wide increase of nearly 3% over December. So if we go back the last number of months where the trends are people were saying it's down, In fact, that is not the case. We continue to be up not just for a month, but is now trending for about a half a year plus. If we zoom out to the aggregate industry, recent information came, in fact, the industry in the United States was up 2.2% last year. Now, that was driven by WMATA, which is Washington, D.C., and MTA, which are some of the two biggest agencies. So we're doing our part, I think, with some of the HB 17 legislation, the employer payroll tax, some of the changes we're making, how to do more with less. So I think the trajectory's looking.
How to do more with less? I don't know. As transit ridership increasing, I'd need to look at those. I need to look at those figures to believe them. You know, once again, I don't trust these people.
Encouraging. The bus ridership was up 4.8% on the weekly basis, quite robust. Again, as I said, December marked the 9th consecutive month of increasing bus ridership. So I would suggest that is now a trend. And we want to keep leveraging that. And part of that's service expansion since September 2018. We saw more than 174,000 weekday bus trips. That's a 5% increase, 5.1% increase over the previous year. Peak period saw the largest gain at 5.6%. The system-wide ridership max was up slightly, but still relatively flat.
Oh, okay. There you go. It's flat. TriMet ridership is flat. So there's more people riding the bus, but there's less people riding. The system is flat. The bus ridership is increasing. It could be a million reasons for that.
The exception on this, though, was the orange line was up nearly 9% comparing December, year over year December. And Wes, I'm not sure if we're bending the trajectory, less ridership decrease, but it was down 2.8%.
Still going down.
Again, continue to be a challenge for the agency.
Still going down.
Third topic I'd like to cover off is our HOP transition. So as the board knows, we're hitting this important piece where we sent the signal last mid-year, we're going to get out of paper. We've been now working up to no paper. So you may have seen some of those communications, and as always, potentially a risky transition. So I think as of January 1st, we no longer accept the foil stamp paper tickets or the tickets purchased at on the mobile app. The transition, it's followed more than a year of this transition, included many dozens of our on-site ticket exchanges, thousands of ticket exchange transactions at our TriMet ticket office. Since April of last year, the ticket office exchanged more than $675,000 in old fares, paper for the new hop card, which is all excellent. So far, it's actually gone very smooth and amazingly successful, particularly compared to what other transit agencies have gone through, and the volumes that we carry on the system on a daily basis. In many cases, because we were paper, we didn't even know who they were or use our system. So it's actually tracking those out from an institutional perspective.
He just admitted that they're using this for tracking people. You hear that? He just admitted it.
Let alone an individual perspective. In the first 2 weeks, we received a total of 7 documented complaints out of all the ridership that we carry about this transition.
Apparently, he doesn't read Twitter. If you complain on Twitter, they don't have to count it. Okay, and they're not gonna look at the Twitter unless you send it to trimet.org or tweet it to TriMet Help or something. You will not be documented because he just said 7, and I know more like, I wouldn't say 700, but there are a few hundred that I've seen personally.
So when we look at 7 complaints against 3.5 million rides over the same 2-year period, that's pretty amazing, frankly. And a real tribute to JC, Vanetta, Ryan Shaw.
We know it's a lie. I know that's a lie. When he says there's 7 complaints, I know that he's lying because I know there's more than that because I follow the material. Maybe they didn't send it into you or whatever, but they complained about it.
The whole team that's been going through these logistics
I don't know
on a
why
very
you
complex
watch
software
these. It's
implementation.
such a waste of time.
No single theme. They did express the growing pains with the need to tap before riding. So that is a cultural change. We're asking people for another step when they just kind of gone on and off the system. So less so on the bus, more so on what's seen as the open train system.
Yeah, they don't sweat the bus, but the goddamn TriMet Gestapo all over the train. I don't know what that thinking is, you know. I don't know what he's really. I don't know why he's sent the stormtroopers on the train. I think my guess is it's a broken windows thinking, like, maybe if we try to get rid of all these fare evaders, things will get safer. Of course, that's been a provenly false idea. It doesn't work, and it's extremely discriminatory and inhumane.
Again, it's going to continue. We've also tried to manage behind the scenes appropriate fare requests, fare enforcement. So people are in transition. It's not we're the ones imposing the change, not them. So we're trying to manage this in a delicate, human way.
You're not. You're
and
lying
the tie
again.
goes to the customer.
Yeah, you're
So
lying
that we
again.
will
You're lying
be,
again.
as we have to tighten up continue to tighten up fare enforcement. This is part of the transition that we've made the change on. So just letting folks know that we really want to be sensitive to this
You're
transition,
not
this cultural
sensitive
change.
to it.
Again, we also want to thank the riders, not only our staff. They are making the change.
give me a
So
headache.
I take the bus pretty well every day, and I love hearing that
How
ding,
much
ding,
longer is
ding,
this
ding.
gonna go on?
If you go back about 8 months ago, don't quote me on that. That's a pretty bad impression. But you're seeing it consistently now. I hope you are. I sure am, and that's a good thing. So now we're past the nucleus of not only getting our public transferred over, our single riders, but also our institutional, the large organizations that has been challenging to get them across the finish line, is we don't have the direct one-to-one relationship. They do. And they actually go out and buy their tickets in a multitude of ways which we didn't even know in the past. So again, it's a lot of hard work. It is another part of the cultural change we're trying to make, but I think this is actually a really great story. So just wanted to give you a
Of
quick
course you think
update
that.
on that. Business plan, maybe Ellen, if you're available, I'd like to call you up, and we'll just take a couple minutes because
I can't take any more of this. This is enough of this. I can't watch any more of this. I'm done.